1926 WVU football team, World War II Navy pilots, and I haven't gone. Give up? We have all spent a week at Jackson's Mill. Hello, my name is Luke Brown. I am 14 years old and I am a member of the Glenwood Juniors 4-H Club. At camp a couple years ago, I enjoyed a program about the 100 years of state 4-H camping. Finding the history and tradition intriguing, I decided to research how camping has changed at Jackson's Mill, focusing on how the facilities and programming have changed and what to expect in the future. Shortly before 1800, Colonel Edward Jackson moved his family to land outside of Clarksburg, Virginia. On this land, he built a farm that consisted of a house, sawmill, and a grist mill. In 1831, Thomas Stonewall Jackson moved there. He grew up there until the summer of 1842 when he was appointed to the U.S. Military Academy. After Stonewall left, the Jackson family left to pursue the California Gold Rush. Since then, the property had changed hands numerous times until 1915, when the original Jackson home was burnt down while the Mon Power Company owned the land. Mon Power decided to donate 5 acres of land to the West Virginia 4-H program. Two progressive 4-H leaders, William Kendrick and Charlie Hartley, decided to establish the land as the first state 4-H camp. They decided to make Jackson's Mill a place where children could get a vision of their future responsibilities, make new friends, and it would also be a refuge for wildlife. Jackson's Mill was located centrally in the state with easy access to the Clarksburg Weston trolley line. The area was also rich in history. The original campsite consisted of the old mill, a farmhouse, a chicken coop, and some corn stubble. Only a few tents and a temporary shed were added prior to the first camp in 1921. Since then, there have been numerous change periods. The first was in the mid to late 1920s with the purchase of additional land and the building of permanent structures. The original plan for Jackson's Mill was to be a fully operational mini-town that could satisfy all needs of any camper. It would even have a fully functional airport. William Kendrick proposed the idea of having individual counties within West Virginia build cottages. This sparked competition between Harrison and Lewis counties, which drove the cottage wars for the next 15 years. If you are wondering, Lewis County won the cottage wars. By the end of this period, 7 counties had built cottages, an airstrip, a dining hall, an assembly hall, and a sewing center, and numerous informal gardens. One of the most iconic buildings at Jackson's Mill, the dining hall, was added in 1926 after a group of 4-Hers stopped at Mount Vernon on their way home from a Virginia camp. This building soon became the central point of this growing 4-H program. Outside of the dining hall was the flagpole, the original swimming pool, and numerous informal gardens. Another one of the most popular buildings at Jackson's Mill is the Century of Progress building. That is also now known as the West Virginia building. The contents that are inside of this building served as West Virginia's display at the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago. Keep in mind that most of these facilities were built prior to 1940. As the United States rebounded from war in the 40s, minimal changes were made to Jackson's Mill. However, growth could be seen again in the 50s and 60s with the addition of several new buildings and significant improvements to the existing structures. An effort was made to improve the comfort of existing cabins and other buildings by improving the heating and water systems. This era has resulted in the addition of a lodge, the relocation of the swimming pool, a demonstration building, the chapel, and the reconstruction of the original grist mill. Between 1970 and the early 2000s, minimal changes occurred. In the early 2000s, a plan was proposed that would modernized the original lodge, increased the number of private rooms, and expanded the dining hall to attract year-round higher-paying guests. Additionally, this plan would have forced the relocation of one of the original mills. However, these plans did not materialize. Now spanning over 500 acres, the site has plenty of room to expand. Some of the recent additions to the site included a fire safety training school, a low ropes team building course, and the newly finished state-of-the-art STEM building. One of the most memorable structures at Jackson's Mill is the Council Circle. This is a 24-foot wide campfire circle with various rows of seating to accommodate the nightly campfire program. The council circle itself has remained relatively unchanged. However, it was recently made more ADA compliant by installing a handicap-accessible walkway to the location. Just as important as the physical location is the programming and curriculum taught at Jackson's Mill. Although a wide variety of companies, nonprofits, and churches have occupied the mill, it was designed with the 4-H program at heart. Two notable groups that utilized and contributed to Jackson's Mill were the U.S. Navy and WVU football team. The WVU football team would use the facilities at Jackson's Mill as a place to practice without the distractions of Morgantown. The arrival of the football team aided the community with funding the original bathhouse facilities. The U.S. Navy used Jackson's Mill to train pilots for World War II. They did this because the airstrip was on site. In return for using the facility, the Navy helped expand the assembly hall for more room to do physical training. The 4-H camping program started in the early 1900s, and West Virginia was the first state to have camps. The first state camp was held in 1921, and it was a volunteer leaders weekend. The morning consisted of classes, the afternoon recreation, and the evening was filled with a campfire program. Additional camps were added to Jackson's Mill over the coming years, including Boys State, Girls State, and older youth. Although camps have become longer, the programming outlines have remained the same. The morning classes were designed to develop the head and hands. Afternoon recreation was to develop the health of a 4-H'er, and the evening campfire program brought out the heart and compassion of a 4-H'er. These things together mold the fourfold development that is the 4-H program today. Classes were to teach life skills. They combined agriculture, home economics, woodcraft, and music. Classes have evolved to remain relevant to the youth of today. However, most of the classes they had back then are still offered now in some fashion. Newer classes consist of STEM, cooking, shooting sports, and photography. Recreation is also an important cornerstone of camp. Early camps emphasized life-saving skills during recreation, specifically lifeguarding. Today's recreation looks a little different, but the mill offers various new options such as disc golf, 9 square, and the infamous Gaga ball. Evening events have also remained relatively consistent over the years. The Vespers program was designed as a time of worship and reflection. We do not have Vespers anymore, but we have this very similar program known as Meditations. Meditations is less about the religious side and more about just reflecting upon your day. Council Circle was built off Native American traditions. Each camper was assigned one of 4 tribes who competed in areas such as songs, skits, and challenges. Minor changes have occurred over time to modernize, however most camp programming has not changed. One major change came in the early 2000s when the 4-H program was sued over the use of Native American customs. Hours of research went into making changes out of respect. Looking into the future, WVU will continue historic preservation and adapt programming changes to remain relevant. Recent focus has been on the historic area, the completion of the steam building, and the renovation of the sewer system. Although there is a lot of room to grow, the only current plan is to renovate the lodge. I conducted an online survey that shows what people remembered about camping at the mill, and 100% of the responses said the relationships made there. In conclusion, that helps to show that the programming and facilities do not have to change at Jackson's Mill for the progress in future to be focused around the relationships made there. As Charlie Hartley once said, "If Jackson's Mill ever stops growing, it will cease to exist." Thank you. Do you have any questions? Also, my sources consisted of personal interviews with Dick and Martha Hartley, Joe Obedzinski, and Chad Proudfoot, as well as the books Historic Jackson's Mill, A Walking Tour by Metter, and A Touch of Charisma by Guy H. Stewart.